Welcome everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Amy Weishart. I'm the new director of the library, so it's nice to see some familiar faces and some new faces as well. Thank you. So we're really pleased to host actually our first in-person hybrid event since COVID for the summer for a visit from Farnsworth Museum Guest Curator Suzette McAvoy. We're really excited to host this event tonight. We are also streaming on Zoom, so we have some participants who are virtual as well, and we'll be recording that the talk, and we'll make it available on our website after. So Suzette McAvoy is an independent curator, arts writer, and museum consultant with more than 35 years of experience in the fine arts field. She's a leading authority on the art and artists of Maine. She has curated more than 60 exhibitions throughout her career. From 2010 to 2020, Suzette served as the executive director and chief curator at the Center for Maine Contemporary Arts in Rockland, where she spearheaded a $5.2 million capital campaign. Prior to her tenure there, she served 12 years as chief curator at the Farnsworth Forward Museum. And in 2013, she was recognized as one of the 50 people who have made a difference in Maine by Maine Magazine. She is currently the guest curator at the Farnsworth Art Museum, and she's a frequent lecturer and writer on the art and artists of Maine. So,
well, thank you. Thank you so much. See if I recognize myself and all of that. It feels like that all of those years have gone by so quickly when you're working in the arts in Maine. It's just such a treat. It's such a wonderful community here. And it's a pleasure to be here tonight to share with you just two of the many exciting things that are happening at the Farnsworth this summer. I'm going to be sharing with you our exhibition on Ashley Bryan, who some of you may have known as a longtime resident of Little Cranberry Island, and also our complete new reinstallation of the museum's collection, which we're calling Farnsworth Forward. So it's going to be a two-part talk. I'm going to talk about Ashley Bryan first, and then we're going to move into the reinstallation. So it has truly been an absolute joy and privilege to serve as guest curator for the exhibition Ashley Bryan, Beauty in Return, which recognizes the significant and lasting contributions to Maine and American art by the distinguished artist, author, poet, storyteller, scholar, and teacher, Ashley Bryan. The exhibition title comes from a quote by Ashley, where he says, "There are so many ways we learn about life and the self. If you put art into the world, you will get beauty in return." And certainly Ashley's life and his art embody this ideal, offering us an abundance of beauty and ways for each of us to learn about life and ourselves. I should say at the outset that there are many people who knew Ashley much, much more than I. So it is with great humility that I am going to try to convey a sense of the spirit and the many accomplishments of this remarkable multi-talented artist and man. I especially want to thank Nick Clark, who's the executive director of the Ashley Bryan Center on Little Cranberry, for his invaluable advice and assistance. And the Ashley Bryan Center lent several works to the exhibition, as well as arranged for the gift of Ashley's work to the Farnsworth Museum. I also must thank Linda Pavinetti and Jim Sipolewski, who are curators of the Oakland University School of Education and Human Services collection in Rochester Hills, Michigan, who are dear friends of Ashley and who lent all of Ashley's illustrations to the exhibition. I can't thank these three people enough for their assistance and their commitment to Ashley and his art. But then when asked by an interviewer in 2015, what do you consider yourself? You draw, you paint, you make puppets, tell stories, write poetry, compile books, create stained glass, and more. Are you an artist, an illustrator, an author, a poet? Ashley simply replied, "To me, there are no categories. I think we are all many things." But of course, Ashley is best known and recognized for his pioneering work in the field of children's literature. In particular, his work in bringing the oral tradition of African folktales and African-American spirituals to new audiences through his vibrantly illustrated books, which are meant to be read and shared aloud. He has said, "I infuse my prose with poetry, the rhythms of poetry, the sounds, the beats. That is a challenge, to find a way in my writing to open up the spirit of the voice, to express the sound of the voice in the printed word. That is what has excited me." Ashley was born in Harlem in 1923 and raised in the Bronx, the second of 6 children. 3 cousins later joined the family in their crowded apartment after their own mother, Ashley's aunt, passed away. Ashley's parents were descendants of West African enslaved people who immigrated to New York City from Antigua after World War I. And they gave all of the children their love for music, poetry, and art. Ashley later said, "We all learned to play instruments. We were all drawing and painting. These things had nothing to do with what we would become in life. It had everything to do with being human." Now, with 5 children at home, Ashley knew he would need a scholarship to attend college. So after graduating from high school at age 16 in January of 1940, he prepared his portfolio and made the rounds of the top art schools, only to be told, "This is the best portfolio we have seen, but it would be a waste to give a scholarship to a Black person." Not one to give up easily, that summer Ashley took the blind entrance exam at Cooper Union, which was then tuition-free, and where, as his high school teachers told him, "Ashley, they do not see you there." In other words, they would not know that he was Black. And of course, he was accepted. The only Black person in his class at Cooper Union, he later said, "I learned early on from my parents that if you do something creative and constructive, never let anything or anybody stop you." Then, during his 3rd year at Cooper Union, at age only 19, remember he graduated from high school at 16, Ashley received his draft notice and was assigned to the 502nd Port Battalion, one of 4 companies that made up Company C, which was comprised of all Blacks. He later wrote, while I had experienced prejudice in my life growing up in the North, I had never before experienced segregation. And now, as a Black soldier, for the first time, I found myself facing unequal treatment in a war that Blacks had hoped would lead our country closer to its professed goal of equal treatment for all. Throughout the war, though, Ashley continued to draw and paint, often storing his art materials in his gas mask and making sketches of his fellow soldiers at rest or relaxing, playing cards or dice, writing, "This was a world they created, sheltered from the segregation and racism they endured." Ashley recounted his wartime experiences in this brilliantly written and illustrated book, Infinite Hope, which was published in 2019, and which I can't recommend highly enough. Its many notable entries is Ashley's firsthand account of the invasion of Omaha Beach on D-Day, of which he was participating. The inscription that accompanies this sketch reads in part, "This is one hell of a D-Day +1. It's all so damn quiet. The ship is all rigged up. Let's get this hell over with." After the war, Ashley locked away the drawings he made during his time in the Army, finding the memories that they provoked too painful to revisit. Then, more than 6 decades later, with the encouragement of friends, he chose a few sketches of his fellow soldiers to make paintings from, stating 50 years ago, these paintings would have been dark, grays and blacks. But in really looking at these sketches now, I saw a beauty there, the beauty of shared human experience. He then continued, I can never give them, meaning his fellow soldiers, more than they gave me. So I would paint them in full color, filled with the vibrancy and light that I had put into my garden paintings. I was finally ready. But how, you might be asking, did this man, the son of Antiguan immigrants who grew up in the Bronx during the Depression, went to Cooper Union and served in Normandy during World War II, end up living on a small island in Maine with a year-round population of just 65, where his door was always open to visitors who came by word of mouth from around the world to see his home on the island that was filled with the toys and treasures that he received as gifts or acquired on his travels throughout the world. And if you look closely here on the kitchen table, you'll see Ashley's favorite candy there, jelly beans in the bowl that he always offered his guests. And I hope that on the way out, you'll take a little, we have some jelly beans for you all as a reminder of Ashley's great and generous spirit. Every inch of Ashley's home was filled, providing inspiration for his art in all its forms. As one young visitor said, being in Ashley's house is like being in Ashley's imagination. Throughout the house and studio, there were workstations set up for the various mediums in which he created, such as the stained glass panels he began making in the 1950s out of beach glass and paper mache, inspired by the windows of his boyhood church in the Bronx and his visits to European cathedrals. You'll see here one of the stained glass in process of being made. And he's made this paper pulp out of like newspaper, Elmer's glue, and wallpaper paste that he used with a palette knife to kind of squish around the beach glass, because of course beach glass is all uneven, different sizes, different shapes, and can't be threaded in the traditional format of stained glass. But the end result is these beautiful stained glass panels that he's created, of which there's a large one in the church permanently installed in the church on Little Cranberry. Across from the stained glass workstation was his puppet making area, where he crafted these ingenious characters from shells, bones, driftwood, and other discarded material gathered from the island's shore. From these discards, he created more than 4 dozen hand puppets, each one unique and many given names from various African countries. As he said, I was a child of the Depression. I was taught never to let anything go to waste. In the upstairs studio is where he made his linoleum block prints, with all of his carving tools and his printing materials kept close at hand. Another area in the upstairs studio was used for his watercolors and tempera paintings, with his easel for oil painting set up in the natural light from the window downstairs, or in good weather outdoors. Ashley developed his love for painting outdoors on his first visit to Maine in 1946, just months after he had returned to the States following the war. He came back in January 1946, and that June, he received a scholarship to attend at the newly formed Skowhegan School of Painting and Sculpture up in central Maine. Ashley was in the first class at Skowhegan, and again, was the only Black person in that group. Skowhegan, of course, is the prestigious 9-week summer residency founded by artists William Cummings, Willard Cummings, Sidney Simon, Henry Varnum Poor, and Charles Cutler, which continues to this day to introduce many of the next generation's leading artists to Maine. But that same summer that Ashley was at Skowhegan, he and his fellow students visited Acadia National Park and then ventured offshore to Little Cranberry, where he is said to have been taken by the communal spirit that he experienced of life on the island, which reminded him of stories told by his Indian grandmother, and where the beauty and quietude of the island's environment was no doubt a respite and balm from his recent war years. Remember, it was only a few months after he had gotten back. Ashley, of course, would return to Islesford many times over the years, making it his full-time home following his retirement from Dartmouth College, where he had founded the Department of Visual Studies and taught from 1974 to his retirement in 1988. He said, what I painted most steadily then, after retirement, for the next several decades, were the flowers that brightened the gardens on Little Cranberry, my home. There was beauty to be joyfully captured, beauty to sustain me. In 2011, Ashley received what he considered to be the greatest honor of his life when the island community voted to rename the school on his beloved Little Cranberry, the Ashley Bryan School. Always interested in education, Ashley took every opportunity to further his own learning. After graduating from Cooper Union, he completed a degree in philosophy from Columbia, wanting to learn, why does man choose war? He says this is his enduring question. He then continued his art studies at the University of Aix-Marseille in France, where during the summer of 1950, he traveled to the French border town of Prague to hear the great cellist Pablo Casal's play on the 200th anniversary of Bach's death. That was the first time that Casal's play breaking his years-long musical protest against the Franco-fascist regime. This experience of drawing the musicians from life proved to be seminal for Ashley. He later stated, I found that I had to draw swiftly to capture the musicians' movements as they rehearsed. The intensity of this type of drawing gave me a sense of the rhythm of the hand, the spring from which all of my art grows. If I tap into that, then all, whatever I create in whatever form, is related. I think you can see this rhythm of the hand, which actually speaks in this very expressive gestural painting of pine trees that was likely painted in 1956, when he was invited back to Skowhegan to paint a fresco in the nearby South Solon Meeting House. Built in 1842, the South Solon Meeting House is a simple, handsome Gothic revival structure located about 20 minutes north of Skowhegan, I think truly in the middle of nowhere. When I put it in my GPS and my drone, I got there and it says, you have arrived. And I arrived, there is no town there. It is literally at a crossroads, this beautiful meeting house, which was always built as a non-denominational meeting house. As simple as it looks outside, inside it is truly a marvel. Maine's Sistine Chapel. All of its walls and ceiling are completely covered in frescoes painted between 1952 and 1956 by artists associated with the Skowhegan School, one of the last places in America that continues to teach the traditional art of fresco painting. Ashley's fresco, depicting the parable of the sower, is rendered in the same fluid rhythmic hand on a curved panel in the center of the east wall. Today, the South Solon Meeting House is on the National Register of Historic Places and it remains free and open to all. And remarkably, it has never, ever been graffitied or destroyed in any way. It's just truly remarkable that the door is always open and anyone can go in. It's a wonderful place to visit, although I have to say it is pretty much, there's nothing around there, but it's truly a treat to visit. But then one last painting before we talk about Ashley's illustrations, because in 1957, he again returned to Europe, this time as a Fulbright scholar, to study at the University of Freiburg in Germany. He had always loved the work of the German poets, particularly the poems of Rainer Maria Rilke, and he wanted to learn the sound of them in the original German. In Freiburg, Ashley took inspiration from the bustling town market, where he made daily sketches from which he created a series of paintings that recall a favorite Rilke line: "Understand, I'll slip quietly away from the noisy crowd." And I think you can see that in this work. Now, Ashley will tell you that he made his first book in kindergarten at the age of 5, for which he was the author, illustrator, publisher, and distributor. And he got such high praise for this book that he continued to make books for the rest of his life. Well, this very long self-apprenticeship paid off in 1962 when Jean Carl, the editor of Athenaeum Books, visited his studio in the Bronx and was so impressed with the work that she saw that she immediately offered him a contract for several book projects, including this collection of poems by the noted Bengali poet Tagore. Over the next 4 decades, Ashley and Jean Carl would publish more than 30 titles together. Ashley worked on the hand-colored linoleum block prints, illustrating this small book of Tagore's one-line poems for children for 5 years, from conception to publication, when it was actually published in 1967. This one that's in the exhibition is one of the rare illustrations that still exists from this first book. It asks, "Is not this mountain like a flower with its petals of hills drinking the sunlight?" And I think that one-line poem is beautifully illustrated here by Ashley, with the reflection of the mountains in this petal-like form. And you can see that he's actually did the hand calligraphy of the poem on this illustration. After completing Moon for What Do You Wait, Ashley created a number of books illustrating traditional African folktales. As he tells it, Jean Carl said, "Ashley, I would like to use some of your African illustrations." I said, "But Jean, I don't like the way those stories are so academic and the way they are told." She told me, "Ashley, you tell them in your own way." And that is how my work with retelling African tales began. Ashley's retelling of these tales, collected from his extensive research and studies, is as rhythmic as the beating of the story drum itself. And their striking ochre, red, and black temperate illustrations recall the colors of African clay dyes and traditional textile designs, as seen in the black, white, and ochre bogolan, or mud cloths from Mali. Then, in 1974, Ashley published his first volume of African American spirituals, another area in which he has contributed exceptional scholarship and research. His bold black and white linoleum block illustrations with music composed for the seed recorder, one of the first instruments that children learn, accompany each of these deeply rooted songs, for which he cut every musical staff and note by hand. Here we're seeing the original page-based stuff that's in the exhibition for Little David. And you can see the tiny little notes that he carved there. Walk Together Children was reprinted in 1981 and 2012, along with its companion volume, I'm Going to Sing, which was originally published in 1982 and then reprinted also in 2012. As Ashley has said, "I'm always going back to the spirituals. They are so extraordinary and so accessible. I've never stopped working on ways to present the songs of the Black American slaves. I've done 6 books of them, but there are thousands of those songs." With more than 50 books to his credit, it's impossible to do justice to the breadth of Ashley's work in one talk or one exhibition. but just two more that need to be highlighted tonight. In the exhibition, there are examples from 25 different titles. Sing to the Sun, published in 1992, is Ashley's first collection of his own poems and pictures. I love all poetry, he said, because it is at the heart of who I am. Language through poetry means everything to me. This wonderful, expressive painting, Great Pickers, is a recent gift to the Farnsworth from the Ashley Bryan Center. And it closely resembles an illustration done in watercolor that accompanies this poem in the book. Thanks to the Belfast photographer Liv Kristen Robinson, we received this photo of Ashley holding the original watercolor illustration with the open book next to the very painting, which he took on a visit to his home in Islesford in the 1990s. But undoubtedly, Beautiful Blackbird is Ashley's most famous book, and deservedly so. It won the 2004 Coretta Scott King Award for its illustrations and has been reprinted countless times in many languages. And it is vibrantly illustrated with cut paper collages cut with his mother's own dressmaking shears. And Blackbird, like Ashley, is an artist who brings together community while also celebrating individuality and self-worth. To celebrate Ashley's legacy and the contribution of Black and Brown children's book creators, Indigo Arts Alliance in Portland, Maine, launched the Beautiful Blackbird Children's Literature Festival in 2020. Daniel Minter and his wife, Marcia, Daniel is a noted artist and award-winning illustrator himself, are honorary co-chairs of this year's Maine in America event, and will accept the award on Ashley's behalf on July 15, 2 days after what would have been his 99th birthday. Asked at age 92 if he ever planned to retire, Ashley replied, "I don't think artists know how to retire. I always have a sketchbook with me. It doesn't matter where I am or what it is, that sketchbook is always active. I don't think of retirement. You must wake up as a child. You must wake up with a feeling of adventure and curiosity that a child has." Well, Ashley's spirit of creativity, curiosity, and adventure is a great segue to Farnsworth Forward, the new reinstallation of the museum's collection that tells the incredibly rich and adventurous story of Maine's role in American art. Spread throughout the 4 galleries of the museum's Morehouse wing, the show is organized around 4 loosely chronological themes: origins to a new century, which begins around the time of statehood in 1820 and runs up to the turn of the 20th century. And then emerging modernism, which picks up in the early decades of the 20th century and runs to mid-century, with a focus on the art colonies in Montpekin and Algonquin. And then next, embracing abstraction, which picks up mid-century and explores the relationship between abstraction and the natural world. And then finally, diverse viewpoints, which brings us to the present moment and the multiple ways in which artists today respond to Maine and the current cultural climate. But the story begins here in Mount Desert with the followers of the great American landscape painter Thomas Cole, who first ventured to the island in 1844 and ushered in a wave of landscape painting that continues to this day. In this painting of Sutton Island from about 1848 by Alvin Fisher, who was one of Cole's closest followers and friends, we see the tangled, picturesque wilderness in the foreground. And then in the center, a scene of leisure with man interacting with nature. And on the far shore, the indications of a small town. Now, this would have been a scene that would have been particularly inviting to viewers back in the urban centers of Boston, New York, and Philadelphia, who soon followed, as we know, the artists here to Maine. One of the most noted artists of that era was, of course, Fitzhenry Lane of Gloucester, Mass., who was a close friend and traveling companion of Joseph L. Stevens Jr., who had a family home in Castine. The two, Lane and Stevens, made many sailing trips together throughout Penobscot Bay. Lane, of course, is widely known for his luminous style, in which the crystalline light seems to permeate the scene, and the brushstrokes are so tiny as to almost be invisible. As we see in this incredibly evocative, beautiful image of Camden Harbor with Mount Batty, Mount Maguntacook, and Bald Mountain all illuminated in the distance. Now, throughout the Farnsworth Forward exhibition, we've included a few of what we are calling contemporary interventions, where we're inserting contemporary works that create an interesting dialogue with their historical precedents. This is one example. It's a large-scale contemporary landscape by the artist Stephen Hannock that depicts a bird's-eye view of the iconic knife edge on Mount Katahdin. Hannock is known for his sweeping vistas and he openly acknowledges the influence of Lane's luminous style on his work. He goes so far as to actually polish the surface of his oil paintings to buff out any of the brushstrokes and add to this sensation of the glowing light. But Hannock also adds a contemporary twist to his works by embedding handwritten text of current and historical events into the scene, and also small collaged images of related art historical works, such as this postage-sized stamp of Marston Hartley's 1942 painting of Katahdin. You can see that here, and where he's written Hartley 1942 at the National Gallery. I'll just go back once because I want to show you where that is. It's right over here in the painting. And here's another little image of a tiny depiction of Frederick Church's sunset view of the mountain from 1853. So in this way, Hannock is reminding us that the past is always present with us, and that these two, the past and the present, are intertwined. By the turn of the century, though, where emerging modernism picks up, American art was diversifying in an unprecedented manner, and Maine was experiencing a rapid expansion of tourism, driven in part by the rise of industrialization in the Northeast, and as urban dwellers then were looking to escape the heat, noise, and stench of the industrialized cities. Among those who were particularly taken with Maine was the popular and influential New York artist and teacher, Robert Henry, who first came to Montego in 1903 and wrote back to his family, "This is the real thing. I have never seen anything so fine. It is such a wonderful place to paint. So much in one small place, one can hardly believe it." Henry's enthusiasm for the island was contagious, and a number of his students soon followed. Among them, Rockwell Kent, and here, Randall Davy. Davy, like his teacher Henry, loved to paint with a loaded brush. In this work, A Blow at Monhegan, Davy's agitated, rapid brushwork seems to be racing to capture the wind as a storm moves in the harbor. A close friend of Davy's and one of Henry's most notable students was George Bellows, whose physical, robust painting style was perfectly suited to the island's rugged environment. Bellows, like Henry, was enthralled with Monhegan. He wrote to his wife, Emma, "This is the most wonderful country ever modeled by the hand of the master architect. The island is endless in its wonderful variety. It is possessed of enough beauty to supply a continent." In the summer of 1913, when Bellows painted this work, Beating Out to Sea, it certainly seemed to supply him with enough inspiration. For that summer, he completed 125 works, 42 of them in a 1-month period. Bellows then returned to Maine in 1916, but this time to Camden, where he was captivated by the scene of workmen building one of the last great wooden-hulled schooners along the shore. The Teamster is one of 6 large paintings by Bellows that he made of this scene, saying, "When I paint the great beginning of a ship, I feel the reverence for the shipbuilder that he has for his handiwork. I am filled with awe, and I am trying to paint as well as he builds, to paint my emotion about him." In another of the contemporary interventions, we've paired Bellows's painting with this shaped canvas by the artist Sam Cady, who is noted for his trompe-l'oeil or fool the eye views of everyday scenes that he then crops in unexpected ways. So this painting is actually this kind of shield shaped. Cady, in this work, depicts the last wooden ship constructed at the Lash Brothers Yard in Friendship, Maine, a yard that had been active in the Lash family for generations. So side by side, Cady's and Bellows's paintings speak to the continuity of skill and the importance of the state's once thriving shipbuilding industry. Both Davies and Bellows were among the artists included in the groundbreaking Armory show held in New York City in 1913, which introduced American audiences for the first time to the work of the European modernists, such as Matisse, Cézanne, Van Gogh, Picasso, and Braque. Artist Walt Kuhn, who had begun summering in Algonquin in 1911, was one of the organizers of this trailblazing show, and the influence of Cézanne and the Cubists, Picasso and Braque, can be seen in his later works, such as this, A Stream in the Woods. But another of the American artists connected to Maine, whose work was also included in the Armory show, was John Marin, who absorbed the influence of the European Cubists into his own unique interpretations of nature and place. We're seeing here Marin's exuberant, almost jazz-inspired depiction of the road to Addison, Maine, which leads down to his longtime summer home in Cape Split, the place that Marin said lay closer to my heart than any place in the world. But by the middle of the 20th century, abstraction had been embraced by American artists, as exemplified by the abstract expressionists, whose gestural, expressive brushwork suggested rather than depicted nature. Stephen Pace is one such artist. This large canvas of freely brushed color is typical of Pace's work from the 1950s, when he was working abstractly. Though non-representational, it references the colors and sensations of nature. As Pace later said, "My abstract paintings were from nature. If they weren't figurative, they were at least inhabited." Pace first came to Maine in 1953 to visit the artist Michael Lowe on Mohican. He then continued up the coast to Stonington, which became his summer home for the rest of his life. Lynn Drexler is another artist who, like Pace, responded to nature through color and gesture rather than representation. Her all-over tapestry-like compositions are characterized by rich earth and jewel tones that she applies in this distinctive, short, patchy strokes of color. Overlooked in her lifetime, Drexler's work is now finding new audiences and appreciation as the work of women abstract expressionists is being re-examined and rediscovered. Drexler was a longtime summer resident of Mohican, where, with her then husband, John Holbrook, who was another artist, before she moved there year-round in 1983 and lived there until her death in 1999. But Michael Lowe who I mentioned Pace had come to Maine to visit, and who spent 3 decades summering on Monhegan, beginning in 1949, responded to the island's light, atmosphere, and form, not with gestural abstraction like Pace and Drexler, but with rhythmic grids of floating color. Imagine, for instance, in this work, that you're seeing brightly colored lobster buoys and boats floating in the island's fog-bound harbor, with just a hint of milky sunlight seeping through. Perhaps it's not surprising when you see a work like this that Lowe apprenticed to a stained glass maker before enrolling in the Art Students League and becoming a member of American Abstract Artists. Another artist who is widely known for his geometric abstract paintings is Kenneth Nolan, who spent the last decade of his life living in Port Clyde, Maine, where the coastal environment influenced his explorations of color and form. Here, I imagine Nolan capturing the sensation of light and atmosphere on a vivid blue summer day, with the ringing sound of the bell buoy in the distance, the deep red of the nun marking the channel, and a ring of bright green lobster buoys. Today, there is no question that contemporary artists respond to Maine and our times with diverse viewpoints. Artist Anne Craven is one of a new generation of painters who are carrying forward the practice of direct observational landscape painting. In this way, she joins her predecessors and her mentors, Lois Dodd and Alex Katz. Craven has been making paintings of the moon, a symbol of time and memory, from various vistas in Maine for more than 2 decades. She begins with small oil paintings that are sketched on site in natural light, and then returns to and scales them up in the studio to make larger works, such as this recent example, Moon, Pink Harvest Moon, Bright Red Trees, Cushing, Maine, that was painted last September at the artist's home on the banks of the St. George River in Cushing. But it was in Lincolnville Beach in 1995 that Craven painted her first moon. The experience, she says, gave me my subject matter. I was literally chasing the moon. Another recent addition to the Farnsworth collection is this powerful work by the artist Daniel Minter, who, as I mentioned, was a close friend of Ashley Bryan, bringing us full circle. In this mixed media assemblage, Minter is expressing his contribution to the complex story of the African-American experience in America from the time of slavery to today. Within its richly textured surface and layered structure are references to crossroads, home, capitalism, slave vessels, field hand, okra, music, and Maine's own Malaga Island. Malaga, located off of Phippsburg, south of Bath, was home to a mixed-race fishing community from just shortly before the Civil War until 1912, when the state of Maine, under the orders of the governor, forcibly evicted the island's residents, burned their homes, and exhumed and relocated their dead, all ostensibly to make way for a tourist resort that was never built. As a founding director of the Maine Freedom Trails, Minter's work on the subject of Malaga has been pivotal in bringing the island's history to light and having it designated as a public preserve, now under the care of Maine Coast Heritage Trust. By embracing the past and acknowledging the present, artists in Maine continue to add to our understanding of the state's rich history and its important role in the ongoing narrative of American art. It brings to mind a line by Christopher Huntington, then curator at the Colby College Museum of Art, who wrote in his 1964 introduction to the catalog, Maine 100 Artists of the 20th Century. Wherever the artist came from, or whatever their backgrounds, Maine made an impact on them that was expressed in their art. This still rings true today. And I invite all of you to visit the Farnsworth to celebrate this ongoing legacy as we look forward to its next chapter. Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I just want to say that's just the tip of the iceberg of the more than 50 artists' work that is on view in Farnsworth Forward, and also just the tip of the iceberg of Ashley's work that is on view. The other exhibitions that are there this summer at the Farnsworth are a powerful exhibition of Lenny Baskin's large-scale woodcuts and an exhibition of Andrew Wyatt, early tempers. So lots to see if you come to visit. Any questions? Did any of you know Ashley? Yes. Oh, yeah. You all know that he was a very special person. Beyond being a wonderful artist, he was a really incredible human being who touched so many people with his work. Yes.
I was curious how some of these artists were involved with the armory show. Were some of them shown? Or
Yes. Yes. So Randall Davey, Robert Henry, John Marin, George Fellows, Walt Kuhn, they all had examples of their work in the armory show, along with the European modernists. So it was about half American, half European artists that were collectively shown in the show. And then Monhegan had been really grouped around Henry and that group of sort of realists. You know, they were part of the Ashland School of New York City. Algonquin was the sort of hotbed of modernism in the state, all of which who gathered around people like Kuhn and the Zoraks and Robert Laurent and Kuniyoshi and others were all down in Algonquin at that time.
What is there still left of Ashley's work at Oxford?
There's still some of his paintings are still out there, because I know they wanted to make sure that they had some work to show in the Storyteller Pavilion. So right across from Ashley's home and studio on the island is a small building that was built purposely to show examples of his work, both puppets, stained glass, and illustrations and few paintings. So that is on a rotating seasonal exhibition of his work out there. But the house itself has gone to his relatives, so and there's some talk of building a second room onto the Storytelling Pavilion so that they can recreate that central part of his home and studio where you see his kitchen table and all of those hanging mobiles and all. They want to bring all of that in permanent display. So even this summer, people. I should say all of Ashley's archives, his drawings, all of the World War II materials, and whatever illustrations were still left on the island, have gone to the University of Pennsylvania to the Kislak Center. And they're actually in the process of digitizing all of that. And we'll be doing a large survey exhibition of his work next year in time for his 100th birthday. And this fall, the Morgan Library in New York City is doing a show called Sail Away, which is Ashley's work that's illustrating the Langston Hughes poem, Sail Away. And that will be on view, I believe, starting in September or October this year. All of that work was given to the Morgan Library. So a big year for celebrating Ashley. Just wish he were still here with us to. Thank you. I hope you get down to the Farnsworth to see the show in person. Thank you. Thank you.